All right, everyone, this is Jim Rowan here for the AI 360 podcast. I got Rick Whitford. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive on the auto industry and what's happening from an AI perspective. Rick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I mentioned we're covering auto and AI. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your role in the firm before we dive in.
Yeah, happy to. So as you mentioned, Rick Whitford, I am the AI and engineering practice leader for our auto industry. For me, it's been a kind of lifelong passion. Grew up in the Detroit metro area. My first real job was working at a stamping plant. Throughout my consulting career, kind of been the prodigal son, if you will, come and gone back and forth to the auto industry to others, but it's truly where my heart is. And so it's happy to finally have a leadership role there and delivering like huge value for our clients and actually getting to see be part of some of this revolution that's going on right now.
Well, that's awesome. And I love that you're talking about the space. So let's talk a little bit about like some interesting use cases. So what are things happening in auto from an AI perspective?
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy, right? So auto was at the forefront of AI before it was a thing. So about 10 years ago, when we started talking about autonomous driving, that was AI before it was the Gen AI boom 2 years ago. But it stayed in that really small sort of specific area. And then it was kind of slow to grow, except the last 12 months, now we're actually really seeing it in those heart of business areas. So it's really cool. So over the last couple of years, cars have changed. They're more software, less mechanics. And so in that sort of position right now, we're seeing a lot of AI used around software-defined vehicles. How do we develop software more efficiently using co-pilots and et cetera to help with that? Another good piece is around the customer experience. Again, how do we make it a more efficient, more seamless transition between the manufacturers and the dealerships? And one of my favorites is in the warranty and quality space. Again, how do we catch issues before they become real safety problems? And then finally, just because of the cost of material these days, a lot around supply chain efficiencies and manufacturing efficiencies.
Those are great. So it's really interesting that auto is spending so much time in the heart of the business, as you mentioned, with AI use cases. Is the back office still a focus area too, or is it more really the heart of the business solutions?
Yeah, great. Another great question. So yes, 100%. So like the back office was sort of the first place where everybody felt safe to try some things. Hey, can we use a Gen AI chatbot here? Can we use now over the last couple of months? Can we do an agent here? But again, it's been a rapid sort of change from that back office to the front, right? And really seeing how we can use this in the heart of the business. But cost efficiency, a huge thing in auto, and so it is a big part of it still.
That's great. So when you think about sort of this interesting, you mentioned chatbots, you mentioned agents. So we hear a lot about those two things whenever we talk about AI. Is the ability of having AI agents opening up more of those part of the business use cases? And are you seeing those really more transform some of those business processes?
Yeah, I think, and again, I think the Gen AI revolution was huge, right? Particularly when we started to put that chatbot interface onto it, but it was still a little bit, at least in auto, experimenting. Now, with really thinking about business process improvement and how we can rethink about some of the legacy ways that we've done stuff, and then think about where agents fit into that to make it more efficient, is really moved the needle forward, and it's really energized a lot of the conversations that I've had, both in the C-suite and the C-suite minus one or two over the last couple of months about really taking that step back. We've done this process the same way over the last 20 years. How can we do it better and really reimagine how it works?
Yeah, that reimagination, that we hear that so much around AI agents, we try to drive that internally for ourselves as well. I got to imagine that's also a challenge. It's exciting. It's fun for us to say, let's go reimagine these processes. But like, what are some things you run into from a challenge perspective then as you try to drive that type of transformation?
Yeah, now I'll kind of the flip side of that coin, particularly in auto, right?
Yeah.
120-year-old industry. Most of it is still ran on AS400s, mainframes, COBOL. And so there is a desire and a need to revolutionize the industry, right? They think more digital about it, more AI focused, but a lot of the data continues to be locked up in 1970s technology. So right now there is a big push to figure out how we balance the need to advance, along with also making sure that we move the some of that legacy debt away.
Well, and I got to imagine too, there's a little bit of a challenge where you've talked about software-defined vehicles. So that's new data kind of in new systems. And it sounds like there's also kind of important data. I don't want to call it old data. That sounds mean, but data are locked in the legacy systems. And so that like combination of those two things, so there's probably a ton of value as you think about how you bridge those gaps. So that's a big area, challenge and advantage or area that they're playing in.
Yeah, it is, and I think actually one of the things that's helping to move the needle there too is again going all the way back to AI, right? So now that we have agents and AI that allows us to actually modernize that code without trying to find the person who wrote it in 1975 that can help us detangle the spaghetti straw or the spaghetti noodles all together. They can now like we can use an agent to actually do that for us. And surprisingly, like AI, one of the things it's really good at is interpreting old code and converting it to say Python or R.
I can imagine a rogue prompt that says, still make this code a little bit like spaghetti in the future for me, so I can
Do my
Hubbard needs
job.
to do my job in that prompt. Let's hope that's not happening because what I've seen right is that you get better comments in the code, better definition of the rules that are being embedded. So hopefully that continues to help modernize the systems. So as you think about this, Rick, like one piece of advice that you're sort of like sharing with most of these auto leaders in the AI space as you're having these conversations?
Yeah, a few quick points, right? So first is
Yeah.
we mentioned it already, which is to take the opportunity, take a step back, use this as that moment to reimagine your business processes, right? Just don't lift and shift. Let's think differently about how we do it, and let AI be the facilitator of the efficiencies. The other is right. Most of these companies, like I mentioned, are over 100 years old. They had brands that are like the brand itself is worth a significant amount of money, and so there's some reticence about like how do we keep moving this closer to the customer. But again, I'd say be bold because you have to in this industry right now. Like we're at a moment where it's asking for that boldness right now in order to continue to push it forward. And so those are kind of my two big points.
I think those are great. I mean, there's no risk, I think, right now with being fast in the space around AI. And so getting ahead of some of those transformations is so important. Rick, thank you so much for your time today. This was a great discussion on auto, and I can't wait to hear what's in the next set of use cases you guys are driving in the industry. Really appreciate the
Awesome.
time.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.